Hey guys, and welcome to the FitPro Social with me, David Kyle.
And me, Ash Burley. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are in the world listening to this week's episode of the FitPro Social. First of all, I'm going to say hello, Dave. How's your week been? Been good?
Well, it was good until this morning when it suddenly started raining. Like, what's going on there? Like, why is it raining? Stop raining.
Finally, we thought we were going to get an early summer, but there we go. We're still luckily okay here. It's quite sunny outside, but it's supposed to change.
According to the news earlier, it's supposed to be highs of 21 sometime later on today. So, yeah, it's almost barbecue weather, like you say.
That's what it is. Just raining over the lead deck and FitPro offices. That's it. That's what it is. Cool. Happy days. Well, apart from the rain, I hope everything's all good. So in this week's episode, we're going to be digging into, you've probably seen by the title around this video, about are you basically making desperate decisions? And I think this is a really important thing to discuss. I think a lot of business owners, FitPros especially, do make desperate decisions when things start to feel a bit desperate. And what I want to try and do on this week's episode is just dig into that feeling and talk about whether feelings actually do have a place in business and what you can do if at the moment you are feeling desperate. Like, what kind of approaches should you take? What should you do maybe instead to make sure you're making the right decisions to help get you out of whatever situation that's making you feel desperate in the first place? So that's what we're going to be digging into today. But first of all, as we're going through this, as always, if you do have any questions, any input, whether you agree with what we're saying, disagree with what we're saying, or if you're maybe in a situation now where it's feeling a little bit desperate, or maybe you have been in the past and you've got through it, like literally share all those things in the comments.
Like
We'd love to hear about
has
it.
gone either on my side or Ash's side. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
I think it's my internet here. Crappy
Oh.
internet in the office. But yeah, it was one of those interesting topics where I also think it all comes down to the amount of money you have in your bank as well. I know we're talking about desperate decisions, so desperate decisions usually come when you have limited money in your bank account. But also, you also make desperate decisions when you have a good amount of money in your bank account. You know what I mean? So, like when you have lots of money, you suddenly think, "Yeah, I'll sign up to that subscription or that mentor, I'll run this ad or buy that product or order this, and I'll do that." But when you don't have the money, you wouldn't think twice about ordering a new kettlebell because you decided you wanted a 50-kilo kettlebell for no reason at all. So these desperate decisions, not always desperate when you actually have limited funds, but also desperate when you actually have too much funds, or maybe there's a different psychological approach to it. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, I think it's quite an interesting point you made that I never really thought about until you mentioned it, about what happens if you do have lots of money and you're making desperate decisions. So let's say, look at one side. I always say to people that money is not the be all and end all of everything. Like, money itself on its own doesn't do anything unless you do something with it. But what money does do is give you options. So whenever you maybe get into certain situations, if you have money, you normally have more options to choose from because you can use that money to generate more options. Like Dave was saying there, you can get help, get support, you can buy whatever you want to do to maybe try and solve a particular problem or whatever. It just gives you more options in general. But that, as you kind of rightly said, I think on the opposite end of the scale, if you've got loads and loads of money and you think maybe my business is struggling or whatever, you just keep throwing money at it, hoping that's going to solve the problem. And you actually see this quite a lot with celebrities. I think, people who have a wealthy partner, a very wealthy partner, and their other partner wants to go and do another business. And then what you'll find is the wealthy partner just keeps throwing money at it because why not? Money's solving the problems, but all it's really doing is putting a plaster on all the time and not really solving the actual issue that they've got. So I think you're right there. I think it's very easy. You can get desperate, think I want my business to do well, so I'm just going to keep throwing money at it without taking a step back and thinking logically about what steps should you need to take. And likewise, on the other side, if you haven't got much money to give you that breathing space to make some of these decisions, I guess it is very easy to go, oh, my business isn't going the way I want it to at the moment. I'd expect things to be happening a bit quicker. I don't have the money in the bank here to go and to last much longer. So what do you start doing? You start getting desperate. You start clutching at straws and trying to find ways to bring in money really, really quickly. And that can sometimes lead to some pretty bad decisions being made that will affect your business further down the line. So yeah, I definitely think it has an effect on both ends of the scale.
Nice. I love how we're both coming at this with a slightly different view. You're talking about finance, but I'm thinking as you're talking about that as well, that lots of people will make desperate decisions and cancel sessions
Mm,
or redo their membership styles or rejig how their class is set up
mm,
or rewrite the website because they think that is the issue. And I think for both angles, whether it's the financial aspect you're talking about or making knee-jerk reactions to
mm,
how the business is set up and run, it will all just come down to actually you properly understanding your numbers, not
mm,
just amount of money in the bank, but client attendance, number of leads, number of consults, and all the other fine-tuned small aspects to running a business. Because you can't, like everyone might saw my post last night where we had the game plan call with a studio owner where the business is doing well, he's making sales, the bank balance is going up, but he had really no idea of how much of profit he was actually making. He wasn't really sure on how much he was actually spending on outgoings, and not even to kind of like make people feel a little bit unsure, but he wasn't clear on what fixed assets were and what subscription assets were, or fixed costs and subscription costs.
mm.
These are the type of things that we really need to know in the business before you make big decisions, especially ones that are going to impact the clients and how you're going to start moving your business forward.
Yeah. An interesting, I was always told as a kid, and my dad always used to say it to me. For everyone's, most people who listen to this probably already know already, but my family's ran a business for a long, long time, completely different industry, manufacturing, and I kind of grew up around the concept of business. And I can always remember when I was quite young, my dad said to me that you can't get yourself out of the shit until you know how much shit you're actually in. And it took a while for me to try and understand that. But basically, what it says exactly what you've just said there, Dave, is like you need to understand where you currently are and your numbers before you can actually come up with a proper way of getting out of it. Because all you're going to do if you're in that pile of shit is just keep moving it around and you're just going to keep sliding back down again. Like you have to think logically about it. And I guess people listen to this, like you know, your trained clients. It's the same kind of thing, I guess. I think how many clients that
Yeah,
maybe you've gone to and spoke to, and they've gone like, okay, I've tried this, I've tried that, I've tried this diet, this workout, this approach, this program, and they haven't really looked at where they're currently at. Like, what are they? What is their current situation? What are they currently doing? What are their current metrics that they're actually got? And what's the first thing you do as a coach and as a client? You start assessing those metrics. You look at their current situation. You find out where they're currently at, and then you figure out where they want to get to. And then what do? You build a plan to get there. And there's no desperateness in that because they might be desperate to lose that weight, to get stronger, to be healthy or whatever it is. But as a coach, you're not approaching that in an emotional situation, that you're not approaching that in an emotional or desperate way. You're stepping back, thinking logically, and then by doing so, you're getting them there in a much quicker fashion. And that's the same thing you kind of have to do for your own business, I think. You have to be able to try and step out from the emotion at that point, put that to one side, and start really addressing those numbers, looking at those key, well, KPIs, those key performance indicators in your business. Start looking at those, and then once you understand that, you understand how much of a problem you're actually in. Then you can start making decisions to go and fix it.
it's funny that you're saying that because I'm thinking at this on a slightly different thing again. So, desperate is an emotional decision. Would you agree with
Yeah,
that? Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah, yeah.
But we also need clients to then make an emotional decision to join your fitness business
Mhm.
initially anyway. So does that
Yeah.
mean we need to make sure that they are desperate to then
No,
want to sign up because they're making a knee-jerk reaction? The
yeah.
husband or partner's told them, "Oh, you've gained a bit of weight." They saw your advert, they submitted their details, you spoke to them, and then they're just kind of making that like desperate decision, like crap, I need to lose some weight, or I've got a wedding coming up, or a holiday coming up. I need to jump on that, and we need to make the most of that
Oh yeah.
emotional, desperate decision. Yeah,
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, especially from a sales perspective. One of the things I always talk to my guys about is people buy with emotion and they justify with logic after the
yeah,
purchase. And I think that's why things like onboarding processes and that is extremely important. And having that instant gratification when somebody signs up, like, you know, if someone just pays you a load of money and nothing happens for 2 or 3 days, their logical brain's going to say, I'm not happy now. we've got to go and change something. You've got to be quick with it. That's why the ecosystem that you got, like you teach in the incubator, why that's so important, because all those things play different. Like the logical brain tends to start to click in after an investment has been made. But to make that investment, especially business to consumer, definitely, it's very emotional. And people will always buy with emotion. Generally speaking, they're always going to make a decision with emotion. And the bigger the pain, the bigger the discomfort, the bigger the desperateness, as much as this is quite sad to say out loud, the bigger that is, the more likely they're willing to pay to have that problem fixed. And it's just the truth. That's just what it is. Like the bigger that pain, the bigger the problem, the more value there is in it for it to be fixed. And I think as business people, as salespeople, which every business, whichever way you like it, business owners have to be salespeople at some point. Like you have to learn how to do sales. And I think you have to play on the fact that there's emotion there. It doesn't mean you're trying to missell them something or anything like that. It just means that you know they've got a problem, you know you can fix it, you know you can help them, but you need to use that emotion to your advantage and to help get them over the door, and then basically justify it after, help their logical brain justify their decision after by massively over-delivering through your onboarding process, your programming, everything else that you do. So I do think that's a very important part of it. I think as business owners, and this is always a tricky thing, like business to business should be different. Like I've done business to business sales before to a kind of like a, you know, manufacturing and things like that before. And if you look at that kind of sales and you're selling to other businesses, there's no real emotion involved in it. It's basically just down to the numbers. Like, are they going to get the return they want from doing this? Is it going to solve the problem they've got for their particular business? And a lot of times they will look at that purely logically, like what's going to be the best deal and best approach to handle this particular problem and fix it for me in the way I want it fixing. And I think sometimes as personal trainers and gym owners and things like that, it's very difficult for us to approach our businesses like a business to business transaction, because I think the type of industry we're in, a lot of times we become trainers and then we end up being forced to become entrepreneurs, to become business people, to become gym owners and things like that. That kind of gets forced upon us. And I also think the industry itself is very personal. We have personal connections with our clients, we have personal connections with other people. And that sometimes makes it feel like when these things go wrong or problems happen, that it is personal. And it's not. It really, there's nothing personal about it. And for want of being harsh, it is just business. That is all it is. So yeah, I agree from the sales point of view. Definitely, emotions should be something we look at. But from a business point of view, I think as much as emotions you're going to have them, you do have to somehow step away from that, I think, to solve the problems.
Yeah, it is, because it's so personal. Even if you're a hairdresser or like you were saying, you were talking to other industries and they're making decisions based on actual key factors and numbers. But if that was a single person doing it by themselves, they would take all the emotion into that decision itself. So let's take us for example. If I wanted to remove a client from our business, if I was doing it because it's my business, I would have an emotional connection to wanting to get rid of that person. I would deflect, I would delay, I would think of many reasons to get rid of them. But if I said it to one of the staff, who they don't really have that so much of an emotional connection to the business, they would then just go ahead and do the task as I've asked them to do. And it's going to be the same. So any decision making that's emotionally connected to you, you almost want to kind of give it to somebody else to make. And that's why all the geniuses out there that literally follow the same principle of, when it comes to finances, they make up a name of a finance person that works for them. So let's say my business and my finance person is called Ash. You have to text Ash, but there is no real person called Ash. They can't then play on your heartstrings because they think they're talking to somebody else. And you can make a better decision then on how you reply because they think they're talking to somebody else. And that's not doing anything wrong or anything. You're just taking your emotional response out of it. And then the final part on this is, take that second. I mean, if someone shouts at you in the street, you just retaliate and you shout back and get angry with them. And like, what are you doing? Why are you talking to me like that? But then if you take a second and you think, oh, it might just be a strange guy just having a moment. And all those type of things. If you just take a second, just even take a deep breath. now reply. Like it's not an emotional, it's not a desperate, it's not a knee-jerk reaction. You've composed yourself, then reply. So like if your best client just hands in their notice, don't just jump back on the email or text message and say, no, don't. Just take a few seconds, think about what it is, and then reply. Because sometimes, again, we make these desperate decisions, these knee-jerk reactions, these impulse things, because we've got so much emotion built into what it is we need to do.
I love the time idea. Was taking time to think about something. I think that's one of the most important things you can do. If something's not going right, is do not be afraid to step back. You do have time to deal with it. In reality, and again, it's something that I was always told is like you're not selling kidneys to people. Like no one's going to die if you don't make that decision in that instance. So if you have to make a decision, like Dave says there, if someone says something you're not happy with or whatever, then even if you just take a few seconds, just like you said, to step back, that's going to sound really weird. But if I have something that comes across like an email that I say, I mean, I'm quite lucky. I've got a VA that filters through all my emails and stuff, so it's easier for me now. I've got somebody that does it. But just like you did that, I didn't used to. I used to have a person do it all, and which was just me basically. But it gave us that kind of gatekeeper in the way. But even then, I still had to look at things and take time to slow down my thinking to decide how I'm going to respond back to it. One of the things going to sound really weird. This, no matter what it was, if it was a negative thing, I'd stop for a second and I'd make myself smile. Like I literally would just smile at myself. And it's the weirdest thing ever, but it changes. Just smiling. Like if you're miserable now and you listen to this, maybe you're on a bad day, just stop what you're doing and just smile. And I guarantee you'll start to feel a bit better. And it slows your thinking down. It helps you put a positive spin on it. Then go back and approach it, reread whatever it is, reread the problem or look at the problem again, and then try and think of a solution for it. And you'll find it much easier because you're giving yourself that time. And just that little smile helps just change the way you're approaching that situation. It changes it. And I've always found that really quite a useful thing to do if you have to make a relatively quick decision without being too desperate.
But it's
trying it now, aren't you?
Like the parasympathetic breathing, like if you're going to dive into cold water or you needed to bring your heart rate down, like there's breathing techniques you do. And all that doing is slowing your body down to make the next step, take what you're going to do. And that's all we need to do. So the other factors are, like you were saying, like we're not selling kidneys, a bit of a strange analogy, but
there's a story behind that, but I'll share that another day. There's a story behind it.
You know this thing is coming. So if we're going on the desperation factor of we have no money, you know you have no money, so don't dig your hole deeper. Don't do things that really make no sense. Like don't come to the end of the month and be like, oh crap, I don't have money to pay for my rent. Like you are a grown adult, you are a business owner, you took that decision to be in control of your life. You could have easily gone to work for somebody else on the gym floor, earned the money, and then you know exactly what you're going. But you've decided to be self-employed. You decided to work for somebody else. So if you're now getting desperate and you're like clawing at things because things are going wrong and everything, you kind of have to take the responsibility for this. Whether you just paid somebody £2,000 to build a website and 6 months later it's still not generated any leads, you can't blame the person that built you the website. You have to make that, you have to realize that you decided that you were going to go for that thing. Did you do the research? Have you done the things that these people have asked you to? There's loads of factors in this. Like you said about clients, if you've got a client who's a prospect reaching out to you and they look like a complete nightmare, the answers are given to you are literally sending off alarm bells and everything, and you make that decision to sign them up, and then they're causing clients to leave, they're upsetting everybody, they're making coaches annoyed, they're really frustrating you, then again, you've only got yourself to blame because you decided at that moment to take them on. So yeah, there are going to be times where we get desperate and things go wrong and things not going the way you want them to go, but we also then have to like take a minute, analyze where did I maybe go a little bit wrong in the past to try and make sure that doesn't happen and fix it. Because the world isn't going to end. Like if you fail, your payment for your rent for your studio, like the world isn't going to end. You can speak to them and say, I'm really struggling at the minute. Please, can I just have I'll try and get back to you like within the next week or something. Then you can do some things like
Be
it
proactive.
really isn't the end. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be proactive with stuff like that. And again, it comes down to, just like you were saying there, you have to take responsibility for it. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of people do bury their heads in the sand sometimes when these things are starting to happen, and you will see signs. You think, oh, it will be okay, but it's only going to be okay if you do something about it.
Yeah.
Like that's it. And as you gain more experience, you'll start noticing patterns more. You'll track your numbers more. You'll have indicators. Like, I don't want to go into too much technical stuff, but you have indicators before things happen and after. So you have like lagging indicators which tell you when something's gone wrong, and you have lead indicators that tell you when things are going wrong. And those are things that you'll start to learn to look at as a business owner, especially as your business grows and you learn more. And I think when you start seeing those things, you can start making those kind of changes. You can adapt stuff and you can be very proactive in it. So if you know you haven't got enough money at the end of the month for whatever reason, you ain't got to pay your rent, don't ignore them. Like Dave says, you're an adult, like speak to them. Like most people are okay as long as you speak to them, and most people will work with you and help the situation because they want your money. And then being an arsehole about it is not going to help them get the money. So they will work with you. People work as long as you're open with them and speak to them. And I think the final thing I'd say on it is, we've talked about taking a step back. Like, do take a step back. If it really is going bad, it's not going to be the end of the world. Like, change your environment, go somewhere, like leave the office, go for the gym, go for walks, sit down and have a meal somewhere. Take your time to switch off from it for, even if it's just for 5-10 minutes, and then get to work and try and solve the problem in a different environment. Because sometimes being in the same environment where it's happening can be very difficult. You feel like your brain's being pulled over here. If you can completely change your environment, then look at plan how you're going to go and solve it. And then, because you've had that little break, you've got a plan, you can then come back in and you can deal with it head on. They're the kind of things I'll be thinking about doing if stuff starts to feel a bit desperate.
Yeah, you want to take yourself away because it's not eating at you. I mean, you like you say, take that minute, go and change your environment. For many of us, it's going to be go for a big run, go and train and lift some heavy weights, chuck a load of weights around type of stuff. Take something that's going to take your mind off it, because if you kind of sit there and fester, like you realize, you know what, I'm not going to have enough money to cover rent this month, and you start panicking and you sat there and you're like trying to do this and trying to do that and trying to figure out, how am I going to get all this, and you're kind of just losing your mind. Like, you just need to kind of like you say, we take that minute, say, okay, whew, let's just go and smash out some deadlifts and bench presses. Let's just put my shoes on and just go for a 5K or 5 mile run, just something to take my mind off it. Come back, shower, eat some food, drink some water, and think, okay, I need to find money to pay rent. What do I need to do? Cool. Can any clients pay up front for a couple of months? Option 1. Can I launch a quick program with just a quick 28-day Kickstarter, reach out to a load of old clients? Option 2. Can I speak to my clients, see if there's any referrals that I can get in? Quick people. I had 20 leads last month. Can I reach out to all those people? And then I don't know, because it's a funny one. It all comes down to your personality at the end of the day as well. So if I was in that position, I would do all those things that I've just talked about. I would literally phone all the old people and see how they are, phone all the old leads, reach out to all the clients. But then there's going to be people that think, oh, that is too much hard work. I would rather struggle to pay the rent.
And that's the difference between entrepreneurial people and maybe not so entrepreneurial people. Hard work is a big thing with this. I think no matter the situation, like hard work, especially when you have a business, and whether you're going through I'm going to say, especially in the growth stage in a business. Now, growth stage can be when you start a business. It can be when you want to change something in your business. It can also be when shit hits the fan in your business and you have to grow out of it. All those things are quite painful to go through, growing pains as you get, but also it requires hard work. And I think work ethic is something that you need to approach this thing. And that's why having those breaks make a difference. Just like it was in the gym, if you're constantly training all the time, like 24 hours a day and not resting, you won't last very long. You burn out and stop. Same thing happens with the way we think. And as a business owner, like, you still need to have little breaks every now and again. It can be micro breaks. And that's something that I'd imagine you're quite good at, Dave. You'll probably have a little micro, even though you'll be thinking about all the time, I bet you have little micro breaks or things that will help distract you from certain stuff, even just for a small amount of time. But you need time to recover. So give yourself that recovery time and then go and do the hard work. So yeah, so go and have a run, go and train for a bit, drink water, make a plan, and then go, right, and let's go and execute this plan and get to work on it. And just know that when you're having these moments, if you have a plan and you put the work in, by definition, there's a plan, there's work being involved, there's going to be an outcome at the end of it, and the outcome will get you out of that situation if you do the work. So just know when you're doing that work, that's what you're trying to do to get you out of the outcome. It's not forever. And if it is forever, then you seriously probably need to go and speak to one of us so we can try and find out why that is forever so we can fix it for you. But yeah, other than that, like, it will never be forever as long as you do the work.
Yeah, like, we are FitPros at the end of the day. We should be eating better and drinking better and all those type of things as well. And when we start getting desperate and we start making knee-jerk reactions and stuff like that, we also again, I don't want to kind of like tell you how to eat and drink, but we start getting desperate with our food, with our sleep, with our drink and all that type of stuff. And we make bad decisions. So again, don't go and eat a load of chocolate bars or quick carbs that are going to send you to sleep because you've got a big task to do, so you just want something quick. Because you know that insulin spike will send you to sleep, and then you'll be even more frustrated that you haven't got it done because you can't keep your eyes open to do the work that needs to be done, and you get more frustrated and all these type of things. There's so much to it, but at the end of the day, you need to take responsibility of yourself, make proper decisions, take that moment to think about it, eat the right foods, sleep well. I know it's going to be tough if you need cash to a lot of people. It's harder to sleep and harder to think about it. So go for a run before you go to bed, so you're tired or something, so you can make yourself fall asleep better. There's so many factors to it, but the big one is just start tracking now. So if you're in a bad position now, start writing everything down, start tracking everything. Like Ash said, like, reach out to us, we can give you some hints and tips and stuff like that. But the more you start tracking things, the more you start putting a plan out, the more you realize what you want to get to, the easier and clearer things start to evolve and develop, and you can actually see a path out of this situation that you're in. So an interesting podcast today. Didn't want it to be sound like a lecture podcast because we've both been in these positions. Yeah, well, I don't know. I have. I don't know.
Yeah, I have as well. Don't worry.
And even now, even now we still have tough moments. Like, we'll have a tough month or we'll have a tough quarter, but because we're tracking it, we're kind of predicting it. So
proactive, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, having I didn't want to like keep going on, but I've got to have the perfect way of rounding it up. But the only thing I want to quickly add is, no matter what your business is, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have bad weeks, bad months, or you might even have a bad year sometimes. It doesn't matter, because as long as you're tracking it, as long as you have a plan and you plan for this, then you can deal with those things. Like, you're going to get ups and downs. That's just part and parcel of business. It's about planning for them and making sure you put the things in place to deal with them when they come. And that can only happen if you're tracking stuff. So yeah, just wanted to quickly add that then. But I think that's quite a cool way to finish off today's episode.
Appreciate everybody for watching, listening, and tuning in, whether it was live with us right now or you're watching this on the recording. If you haven't got your FitPro Summer Summit tickets yet, then click around this video somewhere. There is going to be a link, and grab them then. But until next week, Ash, I will see you then, and I'll speak to you all then soon too.
See you on. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the FitPro Social. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes.